Hello and welcome back to Talk Pitch Side. I'm your host PJ with my co-host Tony. As always, cover all things MLS and USMNT national team. And Tony, I'm saying it. I'm putting it out there. We just witnessed in our lifetime the best U.S. men's national team victory of all time. I know we've beaten Portugal. I know we've put together games in 2002 and gone on the runs. And I have never seen this team put together a full 90-minute domination like they did on over the weekend. That's what we haven't seen. We've seen the Portugal result. They go up 3-0, but then they allow two goals, and Portugal almost comes back into that game. You see big games against Ghana, the random results that have been good against better teams in Paraguay. Like we've beaten better teams in Paraguay, so like it's not the best team we've ever beaten, but against a respectable team like Paraguay that just came off allowing 10 goals in 18 matches in their qualifications, beating the likes of Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay 1-0 multiple times. And then you show up and from minute one, just put goal after goal after goal, chance after chance after chance, all over this good defensive side in Paraguay. And from minute one, I would say minute two, we had actually a defensive scare early on.
Yeah, there was a
But
scare.
from
Yeah.
minute two on, you didn't let your foot off the gas. And it's remarkable. I've never had a performance, Tony, where I've come out of it and not had a critique for somebody on the field. That's how it was. Like you could go across the 11 that played on on Friday and point out something good that they did during that game, and point to something that they helped benefit Team USA with during that game. It was a beauty to behold. I was in the limbs and the bars, just going nuts and looking around, just asking how is this happening, what is happening, and there's a lot of things that come off of this now that we'll get into here, and when we start discussing this a little bit. But give me your instant reactions, because I think mine was just more a mixture of shock and a mixture of just like being proud of the way that they came out and controlled this game.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely elated. Even just like listening to was what I had my first reaction to, but going back and watching just the atmosphere in the stadium
Mm-hmm.
just seemed so epic. Like actually a couple people that I I know is a stretch, but follow on Instagram were at that game, and like the stories that they're posting and kind of getting like
Mm-hmm.
the in-person view. I mean, just seems absolutely insane. And so like for that to be like our home opener for the World Cup for the first time, in 30 years, it's fantastic. It's elation and like also like shock. Like there's just no way. And like in the same way, like a lot of people, I don't think you have a unique take in saying like that was the best game in U.S. men's national team history. And like I hear that and I like think like really like, and then you kind of start thinking back at it. And I think what made this like so special was that the games that USA punched above their weight, went above their expectations, is they had to scrap, right? You think back of all the World Cup memories, all the World Cup qualifying memories, the Gold Cups, all that stuff, where they end up beating Mexico, where they end up beating Portugal, wherever, fill in the blank, all your favorite moments, right? They came from an underdog position and they came from like a scrappy, like we had to fight and just like play physical and do that. And this was the first game, maybe at least in recent memory, that we didn't have to do that. Like we played and like we're just better at soccer and we call it soccer and we can say it's
It
soccer, like
Yeah, it was one of those games. Like I've looked back and I've watched it so many times now because it's so fun to watch. It you come out and you're like, this is what it like feels like. Like in this one game, I'm not saying we are going forward. I'm saying, but in
yeah.
this one game, it's like we felt like what it's like to be a France or Spain or somebody
Yeah.
that goes out there and controls every bit of the game and knows they're better than you, and they're attacking your weaknesses. And that's exactly what this squad did. And for all the critiques we have over the squad and the expectations we have over this squad, it's like it all culminated in this one moment where you saw like what this group at their peak is capable of, like in this moment. And I I think I also say it's the greatest game I've ever watched for the U.S. men's national team. Not only because of the performance of the field, but the expectations going into this.
Hmm.
What this entire thing is, home soil World Cup. You have a lot of expectations as a group to deliver this World Cup because you want to inspire the next generation. You want to push soccer, football forward in America, and there's so many lofty things that are put out there on this group for this moment. And to look that moment in the eyes and have the that dominant performance, I think is what is shocking because I think if out of all the games in this group stage, I would have thought, hey, the moment is going to hit you more than ever. It was this game. It was walking out
Yeah.
to the crowd, realizing this is it. This is the World Cup. And that's where it can kind of, I think, take you a little bit. And we've seen it with some other countries here in the first round, which we'll get into, first round of games where big name countries have kind of been punched in the mouth a little bit. And you didn't allow Paraguay to breathe in this game. And it's something we asked for. I mean, not to
Yeah.
this extreme that we expected, but it was from
We'll
moment
take it.
one,
Yeah.
you've got to go out there and create a moment.
Hmm.
And I think there's a lot of guys we can point to and say they had a great game. We'll get into a few here. I think first and foremost, it started with Christian Pulisic. And we talked about him in these friendlies and the aggressiveness that he had. And we loved the way he was playing. Tony, for the 45 minutes he was in this game, he turned that up times 10. The way he was beating guys one on one, it was the bar that I was in. People were saying it out loud. When it got swung to Christian Pulisic, nothing else was on his mind except I'm this guy cannot stop me.
Yeah.
I'm going to attack him and drive this ball to the net. And he did it again and again and again. And like it resulted in that first goal where he splits the two defenders, he splits another defender, he drops off to Weston. Weston, and everyone thought he was going to shoot the ball. Ends up trying to
Yeah.
pass it to Balogun, which if it gets through would have been a great pass. Ends up hitting the defender, going in the net, and that's all Christian. Second goal, I mean, Anthony Robinson drops a beauty of a ball down the left
Hmm.
side of the field to Christian Pulisic, making a great run. He drops a perfect pass, hits off a defender's foot last second, and then falls to Balogun's feet. And Balogun is another one of those stars in the match. He finishes it off. And then it just, I think we could have scored 5 goals in the first half because of Christian Pulisic and what he was doing. And that's where it started. So I think he set the tone really early in the way that he was driving the ball. I think guys fed off that. You saw Weston McKennie making run after run after run into the attacking area. You saw Balogun, of course, with the 2 goals, just look relentless at the striker position. Really felt like you finally saw him and Christian figure each other out a little bit for one of the first times in terms of like he's got to figuring out where to expect these balls to go from Christian. And it feels like a lot of delayed runs from Balogun to find these spots. And there's just so much to cover. I wanted to like brain dump, but it's like hard. I want to like slow down at the same time. So
Yeah.
I, let's start with like slowing down a little bit because I think there was a moment even before the game where the roster came out, the team sheet came out, and they're playing this inverted 4-back, 5-back. Des will drop back sometimes, but it's really Alex Freeman as the right back,
Mm.
and Richards is starting. That was the big factor. This he plays all 90 minutes. Ream, Anthony Robinson, and then a choice I don't think anybody saw coming, Tony, is they put Malik Tillman as the 8 next to Tyler Adams in this one, or the 6 next to Tyler Adams in this one. And they said basically that role we all thought Weston was going to play. They went ahead and put Malik Tillman in there and let Weston be that cam to make all those runs. And Tony, I couldn't believe it when it first came out. I thought it was just an error from like the broadcast team and everything. And then you saw it on the field, and it's really what they were playing. It ends up being a terrific idea. And I know Malik Tillman's come out and stated it's not his preferred position. It's not his preferred. He'd rather play where Weston's playing on the field in that role. But he you didn't see his head go down because of it at any point. You saw aggressiveness from both sides of the ball from him. When he got the ball, he was pushing it forward. He played a good defensive shift in this one in terms of pressing and getting the ball back with Tyler so much so they couldn't even allow Paraguay to counter them. And then it really opened up Weston McKennie and all the chances that he had in terms of just like going in that like slot position and really like going right upfield in the slot position. It was like right between the center back and the left and right backs at times. They just kept finding him there over and over. And I just thought that decision right from the beginning was something no one saw coming, and it ends up working perfectly. And it fits this team for a need that they needed and they had, and it ends up being the right call in the end.
Yeah, and I think that the formation, at least in this one, it'll be interesting to see if we hold that up. But I think the high wingers that we've been running when it comes to Dest and Jedi really jammed up Paraguay in a way that let us kind of venture more forward and not have to lean on McKinney for his defensive duties or Tillman for that matter. Because Paraguay, I mean, really, it was like if they couldn't break on the wings, they couldn't find it through the middle either, building up and kind of passing combinations. So I think that naturally that the formation that Poch set us up in played in our hand really well out the gate, and I think that's why we saw honestly a big piece of the domination is what it was, like how our formations lined up. That being said, I think that we asked different things of different players. I mean, McKinney always gets asked something different. He looked really good roaming underneath Balogun, setting up a lot of those plays and just causing havoc. I don't know how often we're going to get to see that based on the caliber of the opponent that we're playing against and just, how comfortable we are defending against them and what our setup looks like. But also seeing Tillman in the back, I think that he did fine back there. And when it came to the second half, when Pulisic gets subbed off, Berhalter moves into the 8, and then Tillman moves up. I thought he did pretty well in that situation too. Obviously, you kind of would wish for a little bit more, I guess, when it comes to the actual score sheet. But it's also hard to ask for more when we've already got 4 net goals. But he created a lot. In like there was some moments where it was like, okay, we were so close yet so far away. Couple takes there, like that. It was just like, we're this close with him and being like kind of creating at the 10. And I think it was a lot to like look forward to. Like I definitely think he can hit that. I'm not worried about that, but in this game particularly, when you talk about like we could have had more goals, like not to like point the finger that he played a bad game, but I think that a lot of that revolves around Tillman. Like it was really close in that sense, in generating. I mean, maybe not the exact shots that you're thinking of, right? But I think in some of the buildup and losing possession or that final pass that just didn't quite make it, those kind of moments is where I'm kind of looking at like if Tillman has like zero point 0.5 miles per hour faster he can go, then I think that unlocks a lot in our depth and being able to attack.
Yeah, but I think what he provided and what everyone provided, which I keep pointing back to, is usually there's a moment or two at least in a game, Tony, where you go, man, that was a really stupid mistake by this guy.
Yeah.
And although not, I wouldn't say everyone, of course, created all the chances of the world or directly was involved in a goal and assist. No one made an error in which
Mm-hmm.
made you want to like
Catastrophic, right?
slam your head on the table. It was clean, tactical soccer that they they played this like they jokingly, I think there's been jokes about it's like calling the Pentagon because it's like the 5 of them in this like little Pentagon shape
Yeah.
that basically just it's a little free fluid. Besides Tyler Adams, everyone else kind of has the ability to like move and go as they please in this like those 4 attackers in Tillman, Weston, Balogun, and Pulisic. Like they're able to kind of really play where they want in those spots. And you saw the Paraguay coach after the game just say like we had no answer for their midfield. He said it. He said Tillman, Adams, and Weston McKinney did whatever they wanted with us in the midfield. And defensively, we couldn't break them down, and we just lost the midfield battle, and that's what killed this game. And that's what it felt like. It was like even at times when our final pass, Tony, didn't go exactly as planned, and Paraguay got the ball and was moving forward. Every time they tried to break or try to play a ball through the midfield, our press was relentless. Where it's just like there was someone on a guy's back. Like no one had room to turn and go, and that's been our fear with our team is when we turn the ball over, is there going to be a time where someone's just going to get a ball, turn around, and they're going to ping the ball past Tim Ream. Counterattack's going to kill us, and that's what has in the past. And they have to play like they did on Friday to beat that tactic. That your midfield has to be there. You don't have to play perfect. You don't have to steal the ball every time, but just to make someone feel you, so they have to think twice before just turning their back and playing a ball. They've got to know that you're going to be there. So that was so key in the possession and maintaining possession. And I mean, I feel like it's probably 15 minutes too late in this podcast to mention this guy to a large degree in Florian Balogun. But what of difference 4 years can make, Tony, when
Yeah.
you have a guy that
When you have a
you know
striker.
when you're putting in a spot to score a goal, he's going to do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, Josh Sargent and Jesus Ferreira, fine guys, great dudes by all accounts. They don't have the technical and finishing ability that Florian Balogun has, and it was on full display that you have a guy that has the ability to be world class. Not every game, but every so often to remind you that you have to put a body on this guy at all times, or it's going to be a long day. And he punished Paraguay when they were not marking him. He punished them over and over and over. Could have had an assist to Dest in this game as well if Dest doesn't do a heavy
And take
touch
a heavy
that
touch.
that leads
Yeah.
to a corner. Like he was wide open, that he had a great touch over to him. So that by all accounts, Florian Balogun just dominated when he had his chances. You saw probably the most unnecessary top bins goal scored ever on the third goal right before half, and he chops the guy, goes onto his left, and he's got the whole net. Both sides are on the keeper, and he goes top 90. And that's a guy to me, Tony. That is to me is like you are playing confident. Like
Yeah.
you have the ability to pull that off in that moment. It is all confidence. Even the second goal, like the confidence in the way he just opened up his boot and played it to the outside corner, like that was a professional finish, and we haven't always seen that with the U.S. men's national team at the 9 position, especially as of late. And that's why when you make fun of this recruitment and everything that went on with Florian Balogun, the heavy recruitment that happened, this is why. I mean, there was desperation at the position, and yes, this guy wasn't like one of the best nines in the world, but he was a consistent guy that is athletic, he has pace, and he has technical ability to do what he did in that moment. He's not going to look like that every game, and it's not going to look that pretty every game. But if you give him space, this is exactly what he can do to you. And I think that's what's exciting is when you've got Christian Pulisic going the way he is, and then you've got Weston McKennie going the way he is in that game, Florian Balogun's going to have a ton of chances, and he's going to have a ton of room to play, and he's good enough to take advantage of it, unlike Josh Sargent and Jesus Ferreira were in the last World Cup, where they had to be spoon-fed everything that came to them. Like
Mm-hmm.
Florian Balogun can make a run and go after it, and we talked about it with Pepe is like who should be starting in this team, and that is just case closed. Ricardo Pepe now just a great substitute to have. And
Right.
I don't think I mean people are like, oh, he didn't come on and score again. The second half's a weird second half because at that point, like when you're up 3-0, like I know people hate it, but there's just a natural like foot off the pedal a little bit that takes place, especially when you sub out Pulisic and you start
Mm.
bringing on guys. Pepe's coming in with multiple subs in like the 78 plus minute. Ricardo Pepe did exactly what I wanted him to do in this game, though. If you go back and watch it, he was all over the ball defensively in terms of working back and getting steals and creating spaces, and played a big part in that final goal with Gio Reyna and his hold up play and at one of the points when we connected on 26 straight passes that led to that goal. The second half, I think everyone kind of was like a little bit disappointed. You're going to 3-1 after the domination, and you're going. The goal was a little fluky. It comes off like a weird header that Chris Richards goes for, and it kind of bounces over his head and is played perfectly to the Paraguay. But I think everyone was like, okay, 3-1, let's just see this out. Great, fantastic victory. You love this. And what I love is that at the end, they could have easily, Tony, have just kicked around the back and just blown the whistle. And that last possession of 26 straight passes, it started like that. They started like it was just we're gonna ping it on the back and hold it a little bit. And at a certain point, it's like you saw it all click where it's like, no, we can get up and get another chance here. Like these goals matter. And all of these passes end up leading to Gio Reyna. And I heard it on another podcast. I think it was Landon Donovan actually was talking about an interview. That moment for Gio Reyna, it was like a culmination of a lot of things. And 4 years ago was just the headline for all the wrong reasons. Was the distraction between him and Berhalter, the rift, and I mean at that time, he's 19 years old when that's happening. When this is happening, the last World Cup, or I mean, very young, whatever
Yeah.
age he was.
He's like 22 now. Yeah.
Yeah, and Yeah, it's ridiculous. You say that out loud, and it's like I can't believe he's still that young.
Right.
And you have all this go on, and you're concerned about this guy going forward because club play has been great, and you just wonder what mental toll has been taken on him with the expectations he had early in his career. And he has this moment. I mean, 10 out of 10 Travella opposite corner, just beautiful. And I think it was really symbolic to see him score, and every single player on the team, and Pochettino run over to Gio Reyna, celebrate this goal, and celebrate what felt like one of those like sigh of relief moments for him, where it was like he can move on, like we can all move on, like this is in the past. Clearly, has like repaired whatever damage has been done, and you can see that in the celebrate when your teammates celebrate with you the way that they did. That's a clear acknowledgement of we love this guy. He's our guy. We want him here, and this was a big moment for him to have this moment on the field, and it was really cool. It was just a cool watch, and to see Pochettino go down and just see that like difference in relationship and manager over the last two World Cup cycles between Gio Reyna and Berhalter, and now Gio Reyna with Pochettino. It it kind of also solidified Pochettino. Everyone said over and over there was never a doubt Gio Reyna was going to be on this roster. He was never in question that he was going to be on this team, and it was almost like solidifying for him, for Pochettino, for that choice, and just for Gio that he deserved every bit of being on this roster. And we talked about over and over that this was the moment you brought him on the roster for, was the last 20 minutes of a game when you need a moment or something to go on. I know this one was already out of reach, but that's what he can do even in a game when it's not out of reach. Is there's not a I don't know who else in that team is making that shot that way, Tony. Like I don't even know
Mm-hmm.
who's capable of it besides maybe like a Weston McKennie or somebody like that. Because I don't even know if Christian Pulisic has that in his bag too. And
Yeah.
outside the boot Travella, like the opposite corner, like that is what makes him special. And my hope is, if I even look past this World Cup, this World Cup can be a springboard for him getting his career back on track.
Yeah, I think that a lot of what you were describing there in these moments are just to go off the field a little bit, very connected to the fan base, right?
Mm-hmm.
Starting with Balogun, I think that one, like, obviously a brace is like very historic for a U.S. player in any World Cup game. Like, I think the last time that happened was 1930, if I
30.
heard that
Yeah.
correct. But you mentioned like the recruiting part of it, like all the the fans, like, all the DMs and posts and everything, and like the news that he came was like huge, and like, I don't know. So then you go and you see this player bag a brace for your team that like so desperately needed a striker that could put a team on his back last World Cup. And I don't think you can help but feel connected to that. And like so many people, whether that was a DM that was never read or whatever, like can say that they had a part in that. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
that's an immediate connection with a lot of the fan base there. And then of course with Gio, like all the drama, like right after the fallout from the World Cup, that was just part of like, I don't know, the circus that we had. And I think that you feel the connection in the sense that like when you read deeper into the story, like we'll never maybe get the full story. And like you mentioned, the kid was, I think, I looked at it, he was 19 when that was happening. And just the parent stuff and all
Yeah.
of
Well,
that.
the reality is he was an 18-year-old that was caught up in it. I'm sure he played some part in
Right.
it, but a lot of it had to do
Correct.
with not even him. It was his dad and his
Correct.
mom. Like there
I
was a
yeah.
lot of things that were out of his control.
I think that it was him saying he was frustrated and his parents like doing the helicopter parent thing and trying to do something about it, which I don't know. Anyways, that being said, I think that like there is a redemption arc within that, even though like, a lot of the argument is that's not him. Just his story, the healing that while he's on the field, like the also the son of the person that his parents crossed is like there too, on the field and like hugging him and celebrating at the same time. Like there's just so much kind of redemption in that just pretty exciting. And I think that just, again, another storyline underneath the goal that like there's so much to connect to more than just a random 4-1 score line, right? And what makes a lot of that just really magical, as I have a revolving door behind me with dogs now. But I think that that's part of what's made this really good. And I'll throw in one more that you haven't touched yet that I was impressed with was second half. I think that Paraguay, what do you do when you're down 3-0 going into the locker room? I think it was pretty clear that they said, hey, we got to get physical with these guys in the most CONMEBOL, CONCACAF coded way. Just try and get them, off kilter, get them a little bit triggered, and get them frustrated. And you could tell, like, entering the second half, like, a lot more fouls. The Paraguayans were picking up yellows. But what I think is a good take from us was that we didn't get shooken up by that. We were able to take those and get up and keep going. Not to like remind us of bad memories, but there was no standing up and punching a dude in the face. Like it was like, we take these,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
the gamesmanship of it was really present too, which I think speaks to like, oh yeah, well, a lot of this group has been in a World Cup now before. Like they're able to weather that. They're able to weather that pressure. And I think that's a resilient part of this game that hasn't been spoken about a lot, but to maintain that 3-0 so that it's one fluke goal and it's not like, oh, we had a scare there, we let in two or whatever, like I think that has to be spoken to as well.
yeah. It was a lot of yellows, and sometimes the strategy in that for a team like Paraguay is we're trapped in USA to get also into a yellow trouble, so that they end up down the line in the group have to be benching some players. So that all plays a factor to that. And as crappy as Copa America was, and it was crappy, like it was about as worse as it could go. The only positive I think spin you can put on it is you learned exactly what not to do in these
Yeah.
moments. You learn exactly how you can hurt your team and kill your team going forward in a group stage setting like this. And that's exactly what Tim Weah and the team learned in that moment when he elbowed the guy in the face, and they had to learn from that. But that plays into this moment because they didn't fall in the trap of getting booked. Now, I don't love that Tyler Adams got a yellow. We'll talk about that. I'm sure when we talk about the preview here later this week. But there's just a lot of like learning that has happened with this group. It's still a young group. I mean, they're now in their prime, really the start of the beginning of their prime for a lot of them, and this is like a culmination of the growth that's happened. And another thing I want to reference, like when you think about World Cup teams, you think about the last generation and like the guys 4 years ago that are still on the team that are helping the new generation come up and do that handoff really that occurs from World Cup to World Cup from players to players. Sometimes it's over 8 years, but sometimes it's every four. And this group like didn't have that in 2022. Like they came off, they were the after the 2018 failure. This group they basically just committed with Greg Berhalter. Just go, we're playing all the young guys. Like we're just gonna get through this that way, and all these young guys, and they've had to learn. Like 2022 was like so new, and they had no veterans. The veterans
Youngest
of the
team
team
in the
didn't even
tournament.
play in a World Cup. Like Tim
Yeah.
Ream was also not in a World Cup before. Like this just they were all learning together, and I think that's where you're now seeing the growth from that World Cup and Copa America all kind of culminate in this moment in this game. And like I said, the on the field stuff, it all went fantastic. The off the field pressure was massive in this game, and it was not only for just soccer going forward and football going forward in America, but it was how can we get the country behind us on this run? Like that mattered. As much as we hate to say it, the casual will watch based on their first experience in something. And a lot of people tuned into the USA game because they knew it was on. The World Cup was on home soil, and they're like, "Oh, let's just watch. It'll turn on TV." And their first experience, Tony, in a World Cup was a 4-1 dominant victory that could have been worse. And a lot of people came out of this game on social media. The amount of people, and I had people in my life text me, reach out to me, say things like, it was, is this like, are we that good? Like, is this for real?
Yeah.
Like, is this something I should get behind? Like, I didn't know soccer could be this entertaining. Like, it was so much fun to watch. And that's what they delivered on such like a massive level with in the opening match to do something like this, especially when you watch like Mexico 1-2-0. It was a weird game. It kind of was gross. The Mexican fans were booing them because they weren't going for it when they could have been going for it. Canada draws 1-1 against a Bosnia team they should have beat at home. and you're feeling all these things. It's like, could the USA also let down in this spot, and then we don't get much momentum, and they just dominated in a way the other two host nations did not do in their opening game. And I think that's also a massive part of it is that they just played like a team that wanted this moment. They wanted it, they captured it, and it gets you excited to think about Friday's game upcoming, like what another victory could do for this momentum in the United States. Because if you can get the country, and I really do think if you win this next game, it's going to be banana land in terms of
Yeah.
just everyone like all aboard the USA train, which is so fun to think about and go for. But it started with this game, and I think this game was pretty significant in that, and to get the media and all these people behind them, and I think this game Friday, if they would have won that game even 1-0, Tony, this upcoming game Friday against Australia is not covered the same way that it's going to be covered, and there's a lot of people, whether because they have Juneteenth off or calling it off themselves, that are going to be tuning into this game that would have not have tuned in if that first game was either a draw, a loss, or even a boring win. And I think that's what plays a huge factor in a World Cup run, especially on home soil, to get the fans into it.
Yeah. You mentioned the pressure, and I don't know if you caught Christian Pulisic's presser after the game with Tom Rinaldi. You know, they talked about the injury a little bit, and that was pretty non-committal, but he pivoted and, asked, like, what was it like, the pressure, playing, hosting World Cup, all that stuff. And Pulisic's answer was pretty interesting. And he said, you know what? It really wasn't like what you would think. Like, there was a different kind of calmness with it being at home and knowing that it was in front of our fans and that they have our back. And I thought that was really interesting, like, take on it. And I think that some of that comes from, this is a guy now that has played a ton of games for the U.S. men's national team, now has played in a World Cup before, along with half this roster. So I think in some ways that this team looks at it and thinks of it as like the wind is in our sails. Like, we got the stadiums like behind our back right now. Like, let's go get this. And we're at home. Like, I saw another clip from camp, and I think it was West sending like Tyler Adams' kid to run up to him after the Knicks won the NBA championship. And it's like, that's not happening in Qatar. Like, that's not happening in Russia. Like, those kind of things, I think, are like the small X factors that, like, in a way, almost take the pressure away or let the pressure be a good thing for the national team. So I think that at least for that first game, we saw the benefits of it. I agree with you. Like, after this result, the bar has been set incredibly high now. And so, like, what's the expectation going to be, especially for the casual who's asking, is USA good or is Paraguay awful? And my answer to that question, by the way, is yes, just to both of it. But I just think that I hope that it did the same thing that it did against Paraguay, what it'll do for Australia. And
Yeah.
I used my rose-colored glasses with my prediction for our USA game last time. I'm keeping them on. I'm not taking them off this World Cup. And I'm going to say it's going to do the same. I'm worried about it a little bit, but it doesn't matter. The glasses are on. I'm wearing them. That's
Yeah.
how I see it. Yeah.
The crowd was awesome. They were up for it, and it helps when you go up early, especially like you saw Mexico had worked against them at some point in the game when they weren't getting enough chances. When you score like that early, the crowd's just going to be into it, and the chants
Yeah.
were great, and everyone was just fully locked in. Because my concern was, you're going to LA. How much of this is going to be the star power and like the people who aren't really into it? You saw those people at the game and they're
Yeah.
showing them like crazy. And you're like, oh gosh, like is this just going to be a dead environment? And it was not. It was the opposite. It was an electric environment, and I think that's what gets me excited, Tony. Because if you think LA was electric, Seattle's about to be a zoo. Like
They'll
that
be in it.
place is
Yeah.
going to be. That is all. Like I don't want to. I'm not trying to discredit LA and what they did. LA has a ton of like celebrity row type like stuff going on. You're not getting that in Seattle as much, and I know they will exist because one, the result is going to get celebrities invested in
Yeah.
the World Cup because there's going to be people
They're going to
attending.
ride it for clicks.
There's
But
going to be people
yeah.
attending Friday's game that were not originally attending because of what happened. But I think the 98% are the natural group, and Seattle as a fan base in general is a passionate group of
Yeah.
people, and they're going to be behind this team, and from the jump the crowd's going to play a factor. That's I don't I think coming into the World Cup, like I knew we were home, but I think my fear was we don't really always have like the best environments as a national team at home. So I was like, I don't think I was factoring it in much to like my predictions and how we'd be. And this really changed it for me. It was like it is such a huge factor to play in front of your home stadium in a World Cup like this. Like
Yeah.
it is intimidating for the other team to be like every time I touch the ball, everyone's against me in this stadium right now. And for the opposite feeling, like Christian Pulisic on the ball, like every time he touches it, everyone's like, "Oh, here we go!" And it's like that does something for you. Like that gets you going a little bit. It gives you the confidence that I think we've wanted from guys like this to go out there and be like, "Oh, I'm good enough to dominate." And I think we saw that all culminate, and it gets me really excited for Friday. We're going to be playing a very similar opponent in terms of how they play, which is they're going to bunker and they're going to defend their ass off, and that's what Paraguay wanted to do against us. The problem is when you get punched in the face and you get a goal scored on you early in that setting, it's hard to get out of that mode.
Yeah.
So once again, I mean, it's going to seem like we're going to be doing a very similar prediction on Friday's episode, but it is really going to come down to who scores first in the Australia US game. And if you can break through the Australian backline, big guys, like big group of guys that are going to defend their butt off, and you're going to have 70% of possession in this game. Like they are going to have possession. It's going to be about getting the chances and finishing them. And if they can finish a chance or two early, this game could look very similar to what it looked like on Friday. And that's what gets you excited. But in the same breath, if you don't get your chances, we saw exactly what happens. Turkey had 70+% against Australia. Australia had 4 chances, Tony, and they converted 2 of them on the counterattack. And that's all it takes sometimes for a team like Australia to beat you. And that's the trap that the U.S. men's national team has to avoid, is getting counterattacked and making sure that they're on the front foot, feeding into the fans and finishing those chances and not settling for what Turkey did, which was 20 shots outside of the box, trying to basically luck into a goal.
Yeah. And
And
10 of
you've
those were
got to
Arda
avoid
Guler.
that. Yep, you've got to avoid that. And what the U.S. men's national team has that Turkey does not have is a true striker, and that's going to be helpful in a setting like this. Whether it is Balogun or Ricardo Pepi subbing on, like those guys are going to have to be finishers in front of the net, and because Turkey had Guler and Zildez basically just trying anything they could from outside the box to get a goal to go, and they couldn't do it because they didn't have anyone to feed into up front. So that's what I'm going to be hoping for, and I'm so excited to watch that game on Friday, and we're going to be together watching it. And I know I want to say predictions and some details around that coming up, but preliminary news also coming out is Pulisic is good to go. Like he will play. Now I'm sure they're gonna do everything they can to rest him this week and make sure he is. But even today, Tyler Adams came out with a quote and was like, "Everyone just
He's
relax.
fine, right?
He's okay. Like he's gonna be okay." So, it was nice to have a 3-0 lead that you could be super precautionary with an injury like that. And I think the rumor was he got like kicked in practice a few days before, and then he got kicked again and just re-aggravated a little bit. Tony, who the fuck is
Who's
kicking
kicking
Christian
him?
Pulisic in practice?
Man, you can't be doing that. Yeah.
I think Landon Donovan said he needs to be wearing one of those like the QB pennies where it's like don't touch this guy.
Yeah.
So it was we're excited, but we'll get into that more on Friday.
Yeah. It's great time right now. I mean, this is why we were so excited for the World Cup. Not that we thought we would play like this, but can we talk about right now how we've just had nonstop soccer on now for the past few days, and it's just been glorious. Like just
Beautiful.
I've just had it on in the background at work. I come home, my wife's like, "Yeah, you want to hang out?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're gonna have to put soccer on though," and then, and it's been. She was like, "This is a really big deal for you." I was like, "Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it's very great.
It's amazing. We're only like
So
5 days into 22 more straight.
I was gonna say we got like 2 more weeks of just straight soccer, which is just fantastic.
Oh, more. I think it's more
Yeah.
than that. I think we're still got 3 full weeks, so it'll be a lot of fun here. But let's get into some of these other results, Tony. We talked about Mexico. We talked about Canada drawing Bosnia a little bit. that was a disappointing result because Canada felt like they could have scored about 4 goals, but just couldn't finish anything.
Mhm.
And Bosnia took advantage of that, and they get a point out of it. So that was big for the road team. But let's start on Saturday here, Tony. Any of these games specifically you want to talk about? I think Qatar, Switzerland. Switzerland's going to come out of that one super disappointed. Qatar,
Yeah.
he scores that late goal to really bounce back. The Swiss goal was weird. They never really showed it, and it really felt like it should have been offside. And that there's been some controversy around some reviews early on in this tournament, but I think that's definitely just more of a Qatar. Congratulations, first ever World
Yeah.
Cup point, which is a big deal.
And I'll say another comment to that. I mean, huge deal for Qatar. That cracks that group wide open still because both of the games were draws. So, I think everybody can
Canada's
be excited,
about that,
disappointed,
yeah.
whatever, based on their results. But it's really a clean slate because everybody tied 1-1. So it's like it's a fresh start.
Yep.
So makes those games a little bit juicier. Means Qatar's still in it, which is fun too. Gets some good entertainment. I think even if they did end up losing their next game, just depending on the other result, like they could still be within punching distance of a solid third place spot. So
Well, yeah, I was
it
gonna say
makes
what it guarantees is that the third game in this group is going to really matter. It's
correct.
gonna.
Yeah, and
There's
and that's what I was gonna
no
say. It makes
scenario.
for viewing. Yeah, good
Yeah,
viewing.
there's no scenario where it's not going to matter. Which, by the way, remember as we're going through this, first tiebreaker this go round is not goal differential; it's head to head. It used to be goal differential in every other World Cup before. This year,
Mhm.
head to head is first, then goal differential is played effect. It played into it after that. So just keep that in mind as we're getting into the final game there.
Important. Yes.
Brazil Morocco. That was a entertaining
That
one
was.
in the first
Yeah.
half. You get the goals back and forth, and then the second half was pretty dead. Like there were a few chances here and there, but it felt like a super fair result. Both these teams are considered some of the better ones in this tournament,
Mhm.
and Morocco just looks again the part of like a team that you're like, this is a team that can just quietly make a deep run. They really do, and
Yeah.
that felt like a super fair result out of that one.
At times, it didn't even feel quiet. Like Morocco was really controlling. Like
Mm-hmm.
the moments they were controlling, they were really controlling the game. And having like Brazil like with their tail tucked in between their legs, I thought that was very impressive. However, Brazil had a say in this game too, and I think that they showed some good resilience and kind of weathering the high intensity moments from Morocco, and then kind of saying, we know who we are, we know the talent we have. Obviously, Vinny Jr. with a pretty kind of individualistic, talented moment that is a special goal. But I think in general, like you just kind of saw Brazil, whether that only concede a goal and say, we're here to play too. So I think if anything, I'm feeling a little bit better if I'm Morocco than I'm Brazil. But I think that both teams kind of showed some heavyweight fight in this one, and I think it's totally understandable to see both these teams win a few knockout games.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting factor in this, and we'll get into the next one here, is the Scots take down Haiti, which was one of the drunkest games I've ever watched. That felt like watching a high school soccer game where neither team has command of like possession at any point. It was just back and forth, chance after chance after chance. So credit to Haiti because they were really up for it, and they really brought to Scotland at a lot of different points. John McGinn gets the game-winning goal. Scottish fans are winning best fans in America right now with their performance in Boston.
Yeah.
If you haven't, please, I beg you, just go look up what they've been doing. The way they took over the Red
The
Sox
Red
game
Sox, yeah.
was awesome. It was awesome. They were singing songs, going nuts in the fans. And credit the Boston Red Sox for, by the way, like feeding into it because I think
Yeah.
they had they did like a baseball jersey Scotland giveaway. Like it was, they
Oh,
knew this was happening and they gave them away. So that's what kind of like sparked all of them going. And then like they just were playing music that all the Scots knew every word to, and were like just screaming it in like the crazy section
that's pretty
out there.
epic.
So it was 10 out of 10. But on the field, the Scots take care of business. Now make Group C really interesting because I think coming in this year, you tell yourself Morocco, Brazil, guaranteed 1-2 in that group. That just felt like what it was going to be. And now Scotland's kind of got that 3 point head start where if they can draw against Brazil or Morocco, are in a really good spot to possibly move on
Yeah.
out of this group, and especially as a second place team. And I think that's where you're gonna have all eyes on this. Now, Brazil and Morocco, both talented enough, easily could go to Haiti, go to Scotland, and just win both those games, and it's not even doesn't even matter. But it now makes it like a factor. There's pressure on Brazil and Morocco to get results in those games. Like they have to win those games, and that sucks for everybody else in the World Cup. If you have to face a Brazil or Morocco as a third place team coming out of that, it would be absolutely brutal. So, good job by the Scots to make sure they got to the cross line. But it was Haiti didn't Haiti threw some punches. They tried their best.
Yeah, and to that point, with those 3 points, it may still be enough to go through, and it could come down to how well they weather Brazil and Morocco. Like if those are 1-0 losses, there's an okay bid for them on that 3 points. So kind of like you
Mm-hmm.
said, it's a little bit of that house money feeling where it's like, can we surprise somebody? Can we rip something off? Getting ahead of myself a little bit. We've seen a few of those now here today, especially that we'll talk about and have been very interesting. But it's possible. I mean, it doesn't seem like it, but if there's anything we know from this tournament so far is that it's possible. We've seen some wild upsets, so or I guess results we weren't expecting is the better way of putting that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think hang in there, Scotland. You never know.
Yeah,
That's
I agree.
yeah,
Sunday we had Australia. We talked about already. Take down Turkey two
yeah.
nothing. We don't need to give that much more. Germany beats Curacao 7-1. There's like 15 minutes of bliss when Curacao was drawing 1-1 with Germany was amazing. Credit
Hmm.
to them. The fans were great. Talk about a team that just knows what their role is, and that they qualified. Like that was this team's victory. Seeing some of these names like Jurgen Locadia just strap
Yeah.
him up and start for this team, and Chong, that was a Man United product way back in the day. Like seeing some of the guys in this team were so entertaining, and that that's probably the proudest you could leave a 7-1 game in the history of soccer. And credit to them, small country, they might never have this moment again, and that was just cool to see them throw that punch back early on in that game before Germany really took control. And as much as they only had one goal, they had a lot of chances against Germany.
Yeah,
They probably
they
could have had a
did.
few goals. So I'm glad they got their goal across against the giant like Germany.
And I like honestly like when I look at this score line, I don't know which is a bigger deal: Curacao scoring or Germany scoring seven, or like what's the bigger headline? Like, uh, if you're Germany and you get scored on by Curacao, does it even matter that you put up seven? Like, obviously, table and goal
That's a
differential,
goal differential.
absolutely, absolutely, yes. But like just mental like temperature that you're taking on your own team, like how what does that make where you go? And I think you kind of just have to brush it
I think
off. But is this
I
like
think
the
seven is
is
enough. I think
Curacao
if it was
trying
like
to warn us?
I think if it was like
Like
4-1, you would be a lot more worried. I think seven's the number where you're like, that's a ridiculous number. Like,
but
let's
you
be
gave
honest.
up one to Curacao.
Yeah, but like, have you heard Jurgen Locati's music before? Like, how could you not
Yeah.
want them to score after that?
And he
So
did, and he wasn't even part of it. He was just, ruining them on. So,
yeah,
I don't know. Like that part, I'm just like, I wonder if we're gonna look back at this game and say, like, Curacao told us, like they showed us the way.
and you never know. They could still get a beat Ivory Coast or Ecuador. You never know. Speaking of those two teams, they played the game, and the crowd was 95% Ecuador. That didn't matter to Ivory Coast, and I mean the star of Ivory Coast coming out of this is Diamande, and the
I thought you were
story
gonna say the
around him.
crossbar.
Well, that too. Yeah,
Yeah.
Ecuador hitting the crossbar about 4 times. Um, and Ecuador was coming to this as like a sleeper team in this tournament, by the way. Like very high expectations on this team. Their defense is insane. And they lose this one 1-0. And Tony, this Diamande story is insane. This kid was playing high school soccer in Florida 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Like
Stupid.
that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So he came to train in America with his mom, then went on to, I think he was in an MLS academy, technically about to sign like with an MLS academy. Decides to go the route to go to Spain, and has just blown up ever since. He's at Leipzig right now. Rumored transfer fees this summer for him are over 100 million. So he has all these sky. I mean, 2 years
Yeah.
ago, Tony, he was playing in
Right.
Florida. It's
High
it's
school.
it's you say it to yourself, and it's nuts. And now he's going to be putting together performances like this in World Cup that someone is going to pay so much money for this kid, and it's ridiculous.
Yes.
And I don't blame them. I mean, he's 20 years old. I think is even. I think he might be 19, and
19.
he is so fast on the one-on-one attacking off the winger. Like he didn't have a goal and assist in this game, but he's the highest rated player on the field because he created so many chances in this one. And it was just like constantly driving and playing a ball into the box, and it was ridiculous to watch it. And Ivory Coast end up getting the victory. They get all 3 points and now set themselves up really well to come out of this group as the second place team, because really all they have to do, Tony, is go beat Curacao, and they have the head to head against Ecuador. Like that.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all it takes now. So if they beat Curacao in this next game, it is over, and Ecuador's best chance to get out of the group is a third place team, and that's pretty insane. Like playing against an Ecuador and as a third place team in the round of 32 is going to be brutal for one of these.
Is crazy, right? Yeah, Diomande was electric. It was just so distinct. Like whenever you were like watching him specifically involved in the play, even a run off the ball, it like he made everybody else look slow motion. Like it was unbelievable when you watch him. And like most people, this is my first time really kind of discovering him in the sense of like actually watching him in a game that I've sat down and like he's on my television, and like I was very impressed. So as you said, like this is his big, like he's in the media now, he's out there, like he's been discovered, and it's going to be a big jump. I was just looking at the FOT Mob and they track his value, and just like between 1 month in the spring this year, like he went from like 6 million to like 29 million, and it's still climbing. So it's like unbelievable.
No, by the way, like
Yeah.
Liverpool put in a bid for him already at 100 million, and it was denied.
Yeah.
Like
so
that happened. So
we're ramping up.
the 29 million is not like that is not accurate.
Well,
It is
and the 100
ridiculous.
million after that game is just gone too. So
But that's the crazy part about this new format, though, is it gives Ecuador life, because in the old format they'd feel like it is over
it's
for
over,
them in this tournament. But it also, like, this is where when you like draw this group, if you're in this group and you tell yourself, oh, Curacao, like that's nice to have them in our group. This is where it's not nice to have them in your group. When you get put in a position like this, if you're Ecuador, and it's like, crap, like there's a free win for everybody, and now we have no chance to be a first or second place team. So, they're going to be the biggest Curacao fans against Ivory Coast in the world. I don't think it's going to matter very much. I think Diamande might have 5 goals and assists in that one, and transfer value keeps going up. So Ecuador is going to throw the kitchen sink at Germany, which could play a huge factor in who wins this group, because if Ivory Coast somehow gets out of this group as like the winner, it'd be nuts. This group we're going to hear a lot more from here going forward. Netherlands played Japan. That game ends in a draw. Awesome back and forth game. Japan just kept crossing the ball in at the end of the game, and you were like, you have no one tall enough to combat this Netherlands defense in Van Heck and Van de Ven and Virgil van Dijk. And the commentator at one point goes, surely they're going to play short here, because they're not going to win a header. And then he says out loud, he goes, watch, now they're going to win the header after I just said that. And that's they score the header goal off the corner. And Japan gets a point out of this one, coming out as the victor. That group is another wide open group now, because in the same breath, Sweden takes care of business and against Tunisia 5-1 in a late night game. And now Sweden sits at the top of that group, and Netherlands and Japan are going to be having to face them head to head to take control of the group back. So seems like a super entertaining group. These last two, Group E and F, I mean, we've got ourselves a dogfight going here.
Yeah, we do. One thing that I found interesting is, Japan was kind of in the wishful crossing kind of setup, and it didn't make a lot of sense, especially when watching them, because I felt like they had some really good control of the ball, in the sense that like they didn't need to do that. Like it felt like they did have opportunities to unlock Netherlands defense just by kind of finding that combination play. So I'm curious why they kind of threw it out the way they did like that. If that was something that we're going to continue, especially when you're playing Netherlands and like Virgil van Dijk is just right in the middle there, like he's going to
And
win
it's
most
not
of
even
those.
like him, Van de Ven, and Van Heck are three of probably the biggest guys in the
Yeah,
game. Like all of them. And
right.
then
They're
and then the
huge.
right back's Dumfries. Like
Yeah,
he's
like
huge. Like
so that's a really interesting situation, but like so I don't know. So here's what I'm getting at. The coaching part of that like strange to me. The other part of it was it felt like as the subs rolled on, Japan got more into this game.
Mhm.
And that part of the coaching was like, oh snap! Like Japan's doing something, and it kind of felt like uh, Netherlands kind of went on cruise control and lock it down a little bit too early and slipped on it. So I found that like this was a great tug and pull game and made me think like, oh man, like what could Japan be if they played like a different style? Like I think that they are a pretty talented team. I mean, Kubo was really good in this game, gets the assist,
Mhm.
but was just tearing it up, and he knows like he's got to be the guy for Japan, and so he's playing that way. Meanwhile, like Netherlands, like it's not the expectations have been high for a while, and they just haven't really lived up. I mean, I know last World Cup they get knocked out in penalties to eventual champions Argentina, but it just feels like for the talent that they have, like it's fallen a little bit short for me.
Yeah, I mean the attacking talent is in such a weird spot. They have so many names that but guys that aren't in form, really.
Yeah.
And you saw that to a degree. They had a ton of chances. There also Japan's goalie played great in this one.
Yes. Yes.
Former dual national with America, by the way. He was born in America,
Oh, I
and
did
he
not
starts
know.
for them. And so that's funny. But the he played a great game. Like Cody Gakpo had a handful of chances. I can look back and be like, I mean, just good saves by the keeper. So that all plays a factor into it. But I mean, push comes to shove. I still think Netherlands is winning this group. Like I think they're going to take care of business in these other two games. I think they're just too good not to. So we'll see how it all plays out. But let's get into Monday really quick here, Tony. And it starts with the big shocker in Spain versus Cape Verde. One of the more shocking 0-0 draws. Going into today, we had said like it was like we haven't even had a 0-0 game yet in this tournament. It's great. That 0-0 game might have been more entertaining than half the games we had seen at that point, and everyone was loving every second of it. You have Cape Verde's 40-year-old goalie put on the show that he did. Has 50,000 followers on Instagram before. Now has over 4 million followers on social media
What?
after the game.
Oh my gosh.
It's insane. He puts in a shift. Of course, you have Steven Moreira, MLS guy, starting for Cape Verde, which is super cool to see. Even as a Columbus guy, we still like to see MLS representation. So that was awesome. And Spain, I mean, big letdown. I know they had some big chances, like the Ferran Torres one where he hits the post,
Yeah.
but like for Spain, like the chances were not that great. Like there were not a ton of just like they are blowing this type chances. It was
Hmm.
like Cape Verde just bunkered so well, and Spain felt like thought they were going to come in and just cakewalk this, and they kind of got punched in the mouth a little bit by Cape Verde and the way they were defending and how hard they were defending. And you got to give them credit. I mean, I think any other day, like you see Spain win this one 4-0, especially if they get a goal early at some point. They just couldn't get one across the line, and now it just like mucks up that group a little bit, like makes it bizarre. And you're thinking that, by the way, like you going into like after that result, you're like, oh, that makes this super interesting. And then Saudi Arabia and Uruguay play each other, and they draw 1-1. So now it's another group that you're sitting here going, it's just now coming
Yeah.
down these last two games. No one's gonna be able to rest anybody. You thought Spain was gonna cakewalk this group, and they're not anymore. I mean, they can still finish in first and feel good about that, but it's not like they're gonna go into the third game and be like, we can just sit everybody. So it makes it more interesting, and I think Cape Verde is probably the story of all of these four teams in terms of like the fact that they are still fully in this going into the second game week, and they just played the hardest opponent they're going to play in the entire group. So uh, it could make for a fun result in the end, and I'm excited to see how this one all plays out. Another group that we have no idea how it's going to end.
Correct. It's wide open, and you kind of made that I think a good point with just Curacao and like, okay, if everybody's got a free win, then like this gets real messy. Well, Cape Verde is supposed to be that free win, and when you don't get that, now Spain's sledding uphill. Like, obviously, it's Saudi Arabia, a game you would expect them to win, but again, it's a World Cup. You never know. And then Uruguay, which is going to be a tough game. They're going to give them a fight. It's going to be really interesting to see how Spain bounces back from this one, especially because you look at this game and I mean, not with no exaggeration, defensively, Spain played an excellent game, right? I mean, it's Cape Verde, right? You're not going to expect a lot, especially against a team that immediately is going to kind of bunker and counter. But like they had very few scares, and really they really came at the end of the game when Spain was committing all the numbers forward and leaving themselves susceptible to the counter, and Cape Verde just didn't really have the quality to take advantage of that very well. And that was it. Like there was not too much of a worry there for Spain. It was just not being able to score. And like you look at the performances of the attackers for the Spanish team. I mean, Yamal comes on and he does impact the game, but it's a little bit too little, too late. But I mean, a lot of these starting guys like Oyarzabal was so quiet in a game that they just need somebody to poke it in, and so that's the part that's pretty interesting with Spain. Historically, they do start World Cups really slow, so maybe that's just kind of part of the deal. But yeah, it's a bit eye opening for them. This might be the warning shot that they needed just right at the beginning, and now they're gonna go like gangbusters on these other teams. But um, Spain's got some work to do, and that is going to be interesting to watch how they respond.
Totally. And I'm almost positive, if I remember correctly, the second place team more than likely matches up against the first place team in Argentina's group in the
Oof.
round of 32. So if you get a scenario where it's first round of knockouts of Spain Argentina, that would be insane.
Just
It would be
nasty.
insane. So
Yeah.
we could see some funky scenarios happening. Last game we want to cover before we talk about the live one. Belgium Egypt ends 1-1. Egypt gets their lead. Belgium responds. Romelu Lukaku subs on and forces the own goal really quickly in that one. Belgium's going to come out of that one as the more disappointed team, and Egypt's going to feel good about getting a point out of that. And as of right now, Iran and New Zealand sit at 2-2, which has been a super exciting, exciting game while we've been recording. So that game is another, or that group is another group that is just completely drawn up. Like the amount of groups, Tony, right now that you have no idea how it's going to end is fun. Like it has been a super entertaining World Cup thus far, and we're only like 2/3 of the way through the group stage, like of the first game of the group stage. So there's still some more crazy opportunities to come. We've got, I think tomorrow's probably the best slate so far of like 3 games that we've had the entire tournament. You have Argentina at night. You've got France, Senegal, which is a historic matchup in terms of the history of how many Senegalese players end up playing for France, and like how many of those guys on the French team could play for Senegal. I think it's like 6 or 7 of the starting lineup that could technically play for Senegal. So there's a lot of history and fight in between those teams. And then you've got, of course, Argentina beginning that march to defend their title as World Cup champions. And sandwich in that, I'm excited to see Norway perform in the World Cup for the first time in a while and see Erling Haaland and see if he can come onto the scene in a big way. So, great games tomorrow. We're excited. We will be talking about those on Friday's episode. So be sure to tune in for that. And we're going to preview everything with the U.S. men's national team in terms of their matchup and their second game against Australia, where they could, if things go their way, could even cement themselves as the group winners after match week 2, which would be a big deal for the U.S. men's national team. So we will be here back on Friday to do all of that. And with that being said, we'll see you guys then.
See you.